Hi everyone, I'm Taryn Fritzsching here with SportsCaster.com, and today I have the privilege at being at the Meyer Performance Center here in Allen Park, Michigan with number 21 cornerback Amik Robertson. Amik, thank you for being here.
Glad to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I want to go in because the season's already starting pretty soon. How hungry is this team after the way that last season ended?
Hungry as we ever been, man. Of course we came up short, last year. We could say, we could have had a lot of excuses, but at the end of the day, the question is how we feel about it, and we still got that bad taste in our mouth. I think we won't have that taste out of our mouth, man, until we get back to, that division, championship, and being able to go to the NFC Championship and get over that hump, So because past years they've been there and they just never got a taste of winning it. So it's always a bad taste. So you try to get over that hump, man. Keep on striving, keep on getting better each and every week.
Your new defensive coordinator, Kelvin Shepard, he was obviously with the linebackers for a little bit, but now he's the new defensive coordinator. What new style of coaching has he brought to this defense?
I would say what he brought differently is he's very passionate, man. He's very passionate, and I think with him and AG have, what they're different. AG's passionate, but I think he's even more. He's even more passionate. He's detailed, and like he was a coach. I mean, he was a player just like AG, so he understands, the players. He's a player's coach, so it feels a little bit better, and he's a little bit on the younger side, so he understands us more, man, and he hold the the defense. To a high standard.
I know that off season's only so long, but what about your skill set do you think has improved most during the off season?
I think myself, if we're talking about myself, I would say, my knowledge, man, of the game. Last year was my first year really playing strictly nickel, right? Learning, run fits, motions, adjusting to the, the play style they needed me to play at, and really they just tell me to be myself within the scheme, man, control, motions and all that, due to, my experience being an older guy, this secondary is very young, and, they put it on me, but I can handle it, so, and just being also, a switch arming knife, man, being able to bump on the outside and play inside, just trying to do whatever I can to help this team.
I know that you got hurt late in the season, so what would you say was the most difficult mentally about recovering from that broken arm?
Just watching guys continue to play football. Really the loss, most importantly, that was the loss hurt it, really. But just watching, watching football every week and knowing that, the lines wasn't out there, so that was very frustrating, but also seeing during the off season, a lot of guys were able to, go train and work on their craft. I had to, be chained, for a little while. But at the end of the day, I just got to run my own race, man. I trusted, I prayed about it almost every day, to tell God to just, keep me patient, man, and, continue, making me follow him, follow his path, so his role. So, it was very, it was very stressful, like I said before, watching everybody else. But once the time flew by, man, when I kept myself busy. I tried to keep myself busy by just watching, playing the game or something, watching movies. So time flew by, man. Now we're here, I'm better physically, mentally. I'm just ready to play my best style of football this year.
I hope you know this, but you actually led the team with 3 forced fumbles last year. So what goes into making that and ultimately making the ball kind of get out of the opposing team's hands?
Just always right time, the right timing and aiming for that ball. But just you got to consistently do it, right? Work at it. I do it when I'm at practice. I think about it if I'm not out there and I see other guys on the field. I say, wait, I tell myself, oh, he should have punched that. He should have punched the ball. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I really work at it, right? And when we get to the game, I don't want to work at it at practice and get in the game and not do it. Of course, if we one-on-one, I'm gonna just go for the tackle. But if I see it's a pile of guys, and I'm always going for the ball, always.
The Detroit Sports Broadcasters Association voted on you to receive the Good Guy Award.
Yeah.
You're voted because of your professionalism and willingness to help the media do their jobs. What does this mean to you to be recognized in such a high honor by the local media?
I mean, it means a lot, man. Like I said, I never had an award like that before. I told them that. I truly appreciate it, man. They really made my day, when they gave me that award. But like I said, I just try to be professional as possible because like I said, we got a job, they got a job as well. I try not to let my emotions take control. When because it's not their fault that if we win or lose, right? So I always tell myself you got that 24-hour rule, man. If you lose some, you win. You celebrate the wins. You kind of harp on the losses, but at the end of the day, you got 24 hours because the most important game is the next one. So when they come in and interview us, I try to put my as mad as I am, I try to put my emotion to the side, be a professional man, and deal with all the other stuff. Once I leave the building.
Obviously, I know I just said that the media votes you to be the good guy, but I know that you've been here a little over a year. However, you do a lot in the community. What has been some of the most rewarding things that you've done in the communities that you've been a part of?
I think doing these camps for these kids, man. Detroit don't really have a lot of camps, in the area where, of course, some of the players do it, and I just got here, so I'm a guy that, I try to do whichever best for the kids, because where I'm from, I didn't have those camps, so I know how that can be, for those kids. So I think just being able to, and also, man, being able to physically touch, like those kids to be able to physically touch us, because that's very rare, So just being able to do that, man, and help them in that kind of way, man, it's always a great feeling. We're gonna continue doing that.
To wrap it up here, so don't know if you knew this, but the Lions actually do conduct youth football camps each summer in and around the state of Michigan. And one of the awards that is given out is the Amik Robertson Hustle Award. No kidding. I have it for you right here. How does that make you feel that an award that recognizes a skill that you so thoroughly put out is being handed out to the next generation of football stars in Michigan? If you'd like to hold it.
Yes. This is crazy, man. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy, man. This is an honor, bro. This is an honor. And me not being here just for a year, right? That's that takes a lot of of course it takes a lot of hard work, man. And I appreciate everyone involved in making this happen, man. This is crazy. You guys made my day. You guys made my day.
So glad. That's all I have for you today. You can keep the award. We would like for you to show it off if you'd like. But Amik, I appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
Thank y'all, man. Thank y'all. This is crazy. This is crazy, man. Thank y'all, though.
Thank
y'all.
you.
Thank y'all for having me.